We have King, pronouns are he, him, in Alaska, who has a question about prophecy. Welcome, King. How are you?
Hi, Matt. Long time no talk.
All right. Hi, how you doing? Are you doing all right?
Hello.
Hello,
Yes,
King.
I'm doing fine. I remember talking to you once before, back in the days when people like Russell and Tracy, etc. were on, but I kind of missed those guys. Anyway, you want to hear my question?
Please.
Anyway, I got into a debate with a theist, and he asked me why prophecy can't be proof of the existence of God, and I couldn't give him a good answer. And he specifically mentioned the state of Israel, because the state of Israel came into being. That's proof that the Bible is true and that God exists and all that kind of rigmarole. So I couldn't give him a good answer. I was just wondering, how would you have answered him?
Well, I'm going to let Apostate Prophet jump in because I wanted to hear what this interesting take is on prophecy. I made a mistake in that I thought you were going to be a theist who was actually asking this question, but now you're an atheist who wants to get feedback on it. My take's pretty simple. The fact that even if a book made a claim and it later came true, that doesn't tell you how or why it came true. Just like when I tell the waiter I want a medium rare steak, that isn't prophecy, it's an order. So in some cases, if something appears to come true, well, you had people who were actively working towards a goal. I mean, it's like if I said we're going to raise $10,000, in the next 6 weeks, it's not prophecy if that comes through because there's people working on it. But I'm interested in Apostate Prophet's take on prophecy with regard to Islam, because you were talking, King, you were talking with a Christian about the prophecies about the state of Israel. What would the Islamic take on prophecy be?
Well, obviously, I myself am a prophet, so I'm very qualified to talk about this. No, I'm of a Muslim background, and Islam relies very much on the prophecies of the Prophet Muhammad. He's not God. He's not equal to God or anything, but he's a prophet of high importance that you must acknowledge him and follow him and pledge allegiance to him in order to be part of the religion. So the prophet is extremely important, and his prophecies about the future and the end times are very, very important. Muslims constantly wait for all the minor prophecies that he made and the major prophecies that he made, and they point out that so many things that he said have come true, others are about to come true, and so on. The thing is, if you want to believe that that your religion, your prophet, or your scripture, your God, is true, then you will find a way to somehow believe that the prophecies that they make have come true, or that they will come true, even if the results of those prophecies seem to be quite vague. I mean, you could make the same argument, such as that prophecies actually prove the religion true or prove the existence of God for many other religions, including, I mean, when you talk to a Christian, a Christian could tell you that prophecies about the prevailing of Israel may have come true. On the other hand, a Muslim might tell you that the Quran prophesies that the Romans will defeat the Persians in a war that was ongoing in that time, or that I don't know, a great dust or a great smoke will happen, or a certain part of the world will be conquered. For example, a prophecy that Muhammad made is that the Muslims will conquer Jerusalem. And what happened? It became true after Muhammad died. So this clearly proves that Muhammad made an accurate prophecy. But is that really something to be impressed by? I mean, he said it will happen. We also say things will happen. Today there is a sports event going on. We might make prophecies about the things that will happen as a result of that, just because our predictions and prophecies happen to come true in one way or another. And the result is seemingly in agreement with what we just said. Does that mean we are prophets and we give you divine revelations and information from some secret realm far above the skies? It doesn't. I mean, these are just predictions. These are just just words that happen to correspond to things that may come true in the future. I mean, as said, we believed as Muslims that Constantinople would be conquered, that Jerusalem would be conquered, that a day will come where a being will descend from the sky. Some of these happened to come true, others will come true in the future. But again, these prophecies that happen to come true are very vague. In the case of Israel, it is also again a very vague one. Israel exists today because of a population that is at the core of the Abrahamic belief, and they existed because of that, because of the prevailing of the Abrahamic beliefs through Christianity. The state of Israel that exists today is not necessarily a state that is a religious state which completely follows the commandments of God and all that. So I wouldn't necessarily say that we are that we can look at Israel and confirm that it is indeed, a state or a place where God's values and laws are upheld. It just happens to be a place or a state where certain religious practices and cultures still exist today. It doesn't really say anything about whether the prophecies or the sources of the prophecies are of divine origin or connected to divine origins. Everyone can make prophecies. I can make prophecies. You can make prophecies. Just because some happen to come true, that doesn't mean we are gods or prophets. I don't know.
Oh, sorry. It's even worse when we're talking about supposed prophecies within holy books, because in some cases there are things that are clearly attempts at prophecy or clearly predictions about a potential future. In other cases, there are things, especially this happens a lot in the Bible, where it's not clear that what we're talking about is even a prophecy. What's happened is at some later date, somebody's gone back and read, this passage in Hezekiah and says, wow, that seems very similar to something that happened. And so it's not so much a prediction as it is a post-diction. They're going back and they're finding something and saying, look, this was a prophecy and it came true. A prophecy has to be specific, answerable by a single set of circumstances, completely immune to the need for interpretation or understanding. It's clear. If I say, here's the team that's going to win, that's a clear prediction. If I say there's a team that's going to win, that's not a clear prediction. That's obvious. It's like saying the United States is going to have a woman president. Well, I'm convinced that the United States will almost certainly have a woman president, assuming we don't, blow ourselves up or dissolve the union in the next century or whatever. But all I got to do is make the prediction as this is going to happen within the next 100 years, there will be a woman president. Well, I'm not going to be alive for the whole 100 years, so I'm not going to have to face the consequences if my prediction turns out wrong. There's mountains of problems with all of this, King. But when somebody says that a prophecy is proof of God, they need to do a couple things. A, demonstrate that this was a prophecy. B, demonstrate that it clearly came true. And then C, demonstrate that the person who made the prophecy must have or most probably got their information from God rather than they got lucky or they made a reasonable inference or there were people actively working to make it come true. And to date, nobody's been able to produce any evidence for the ability to predict the future beyond, like we do good with weather reports and other things that are obvious. But that's all I got for you, King. I hope that answers your question.
I don't think, well, you gave a very interesting answer, but I don't think it'll convince this friend of mine who's an evangelical Christian.
Well, go try it.
All right, I'll try it and see what happens. Thanks a lot, Matt. And
Sure.
I'm kind of missing the old days when when Tracy and Ron and Russell were those guys that used to be on.
I don't know who Ron is, but I'm sorry you're missing the old days. Go watch a rerun. Some of us are continuing to move on in the real world, and other people have left. This is what happens.
I guess I feel nostalgic. Yeah, I guess I could watch the YouTube videos. Okay, thanks a lot, guys.
Sure.
Thank you so much.